ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go through this quickly. It's nothing really new. Anybody that's been part of this budget process has seen this information before, but by law, we need to do a public hearing, so that's why we're here. If you're a city resident, which most of you are, I hope that you got your budget mail or postcard, as well as we have a newsletter out there, we have information on our website, but per strictures of the state of New York, we have to go through this, this public hearing. And what we need to do is just talk about the information, the budget for the 2012-2013 school year. This is our general fund budget. This is where we spend most of our money and where we raise most of our money. By state law, it has to be broken down in three parts: administration, our instructional program, and capital, and we'll talk about those in a moment. Where does the revenue come from? Looking at these numbers, the big section over here, 52%, comes from the state of New York, and the 37% here is property tax, and then we get the rest. The other 11% comes from sales tax, 6%, and then from other sources. The biggest other source is from our savings account, which is 4% of our revenue. In terms of dollars, property tax, $10,892,000, state aid, $15,342,000. This is sales tax, miscellaneous, and this is how much of our savings account we're going to use for next year. Total budget, $29,541,451. The number just fell that way. I didn't do that on purpose. It should be noted that the governor's proposed budget for next year increased revenues by about $355,000, which was a good thing. But that offset the loss of federal funds of almost $800,000. And we're also reduced the amount of our savings by $320,000. So when we see that the budget is less next year than this year, it's mainly because the revenue really wasn't coming in at the same pace. Where does the money go? The biggest chunk, this whole side of the pie, is for salaries and benefits. We are a people organization. It's all about service. 19%, basically other expenditures, materials, and of that ilk. This is our mortgage payment, basically the 10%, and some miscellaneous transportation, 4%, and utilities, 2%. We've done a really good job of holding the line on our utilities. So broken down in those three parts: administration, program, capital. Biggest part is program. That's the teaching and learning that's going on. And we'll talk about these individually. First, from this year till next year. This year's budget, $30,036,000. Next year's budget, $29,541,000. We reduced the total budget by almost $500,000, or 1.65%. What's in administration? Expenses related to the Board of Education, the superintendent, myself. Business, basically almost all of the things that are non-instructional are in that administrative part of the budget. In terms of dollars, you have salaries for people, basically central office, our building principals and assistant principals, the clerical people throughout the district. This is basically our fire insurance, if you will, your homeowner's insurance, contractual expenses, some supplies, BOCES component. Most of this is for technology that we use to run the district, not for teaching and learning, but for running the district. And the fringe benefits associated with all of these people, $3.3 million, about 11.3% of our total budget. It relates to administration. It should be noted that in the last 3 or 4 years, well, just from last year, or this year till next year, we've reduced the administrative cost by $186,000. Over since 2008-9, we've reduced administrative costs by $357,000. That was done through staff reductions, hiring practices, and contract adjustments. We've done a really good job of trying to hold down our administrative costs. Now, program, this is the meat and potatoes. This is all the teaching. This is the teaching and learning that's going on, regular education, special education, after-school education, everything that relates to sports, transportation, all of those things that relate to the teaching and learning in the district. And you can see a big number, $20 million. The teaching, this is salaries, this is special needs, this is some after-school things, our libraries, pupil personnel, which is the special ed office, guidance, our transportation. Our transportation is contracted, our BOCES expenditures, and this is about teaching and learning. It includes technology. It also includes OCED, the students that go off to BOCES for occupational education, and then the fringe benefits associated with those people. Almost 70% of our budget, that's the way it should be, 70% of our budget is the teaching and learning portion of our budget. In terms of, it should be noted that class size, even though we made those cuts, almost $500,000, class size at Mullen, 14 to 19, Riverview, 16 to 20, Fletcher, 20 to 22. Here in the secondary complex, classes will range for electives in the 10 to 12 area, all the way up to the low to mid 20s, and we did not cut any programs here in the Tonawanda City School District. Capital, this is basically our physical plan. This is the maintenance and the custodial part of our physical plan, taking care of our buildings. It also includes our mortgage payment. So you'll see that broken down here. These are our maintenance and custodial folks. Our utilities are part of this. This is just like at your homes, the water, the lights, the gas bill, contract services, things that need to be fixed and repaired. The supplies associated with, this is our mortgage payment, this is how much we owe based on past capital projects, and the fringe benefits associated with those people, $5.5 million, just a little under 19%. And it should be noted here too, that there have been reductions over the past few years. Just going into next year alone, we reduced the budget by $238,000, a lot of that was utilities. Accumulated savings for the last 4 years, Mr. Mazar should be congratulated, $708,000. Over the last 4 years, doing things smarter, not working harder, but working smarter. I want to talk about a contingent budget. This is what happens if the budget, we go through 2 defeats. You get 2 shots at it. This is new for the 12-13 school year. What the community is voting on this year is not just the budget. You've been voting on the budget for the last 10 or 11 years. You are also voting on the tax levy. So the board has if for some reason the budget is defeated the first time around next week, the board needs to make a decision. They can adopt a contingent budget, or they can take it before the public again. If you have 2 defeats, then the tax levy cannot go up more than it is this year. So there would be no levy increase. So the board must adopt a contingent budget. So what would happen? The budget would decrease by $32,000 because there are certain expenditures you are not allowed to spend in a contingent budget, mostly for equipment that we would be buying, mostly technology type equipment. And we would have to dip into our savings an additional $173,000. That is new for this year. Everything is included in a contingent budget except those equipment items. So what happens? There really aren't any capital improvements. There's no sale of property, but this equipment would go away. And the free use of community schools above normal costs. You wanted to use the building on, say, a Saturday night. Right now, the superintendent has the right to waive the fees. If the budget were defeated, we could not waive the fees. The people, we'd have to, whatever it costs, the people who are using the building would have to pay for it. So that includes overtime costs, maybe overtime if you need special help, an AD technician or an engineer, custodial. All those things would have to be charged to whomever used the building. Passage of the proposal will allow the district to keep all of our programs and activities for students, maintain building support staff, and we talked about that use for community use for schools. In terms of where the tax levy's been for the last so many years, it's been as low as $8.8 million, and we're now up to $892. But I should point out, back in 2008-9, it was actually higher. The board has done a really good job of holding the line on that tax levy over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, we're less than where we were 5 years ago, if you will. In terms of where that is in regard to inflation, the red line is inflation, the dark line, the light line. So you can see inflation has been way up. The tax levy does not come anywhere near inflation. So the board, again, has done a really good job of holding the line on that tax line. And during that time, we've consolidated the elementary program, we've maintained our programs, we've got new programs, new technology, NovaNet, Read 180. We've re-roofed this building, we've relocated central office, we've gotten rid of vacant properties. We've put a lot of technology into the district and done some energy efficient things. One last thing I want to talk about is the STAR program. This has an impact on homeowners. Anybody that owns their home in the city of Tonawanda receives an exemption for STAR. If you are a senior citizen over the age of 65 with income under $60,000, you receive a $62,200 exemption. What does that mean? On an $80,000 home at the current rate of $1,735, or actually that's the projected rate of $1,735, you would receive a savings of $1,079, so instead of paying $1,388, you would pay $308. That $1,079 you could use to off to the Caribbean for the winter. So that would be your money. If you are a regular homeowner, like myself, you receive a $30,000 exemption, so you would save $520. So maybe I could go to Toronto instead of the Caribbean. But there is definitely a savings in regard to those star exemptions. So it's important that everyone maintains that star. And this year it's critical. Our tax levy is going up less than 2%, so the taxpayers will reap the full benefit of their star reduction, because you're only allowed a 2% increase from year to year. But the board has kept the levy below 2%, so everybody gets the full benefit of their star savings. The voters will elect 2 members to the Board of Education next week, and the voters will vote on the proposed budget and tax levy for next year. So we urge you, one single polling site at the Wellness Gym in this building, from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Get out early, vote early, and vote often. We encourage you all to come out. It's right off the parking lot. It's easy in, easy out. We have a veteran election staff. They'll get you in, get you out in no time at all. So we encourage you to come on out and vote. And if anybody has a question, I'll be happy to answer it. But it was kind of full. So without further ado, I will turn it back over to Mrs. Stewart. But if you have a question, if you have an issue, come and see me after the meeting. Give me a call. I'm in the book. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.